Hi everyone, it's Pam Le Noury, Head of Expedition Operations, and today we're going to chat about Cape Verde, that wonderful archipelago in the Atlantic, and some of the itineraries that we do there. So I'm going to share my screen with you for a sec, and let's take a look. So in the shorter term future, we have in April 22 an option island hopping in the Cape Verde on the lovely Hebridean sky, and then the next one incorporates Cape Verde and the Canary Islands. So let's chat a bit about Cape Verde. I think they're lesser known amongst all the wonderful Atlantic archipelagos. It's here on the west coast of Africa. It's in the same eco-region, and it's so similar geologically to both the Canary Islands and the Azores. You've got this mid-Atlantic sort of clump of geologically formed islands, 10 in the case of Cape Verde, and lots of, very much volcanic scenery, windward islands, leeward islands. Some are very lush and green, a lot of them are very high. So, strip all the sort of culture and most of the wildlife away, and you're looking at very similar archipelagos. But culturally and with the history involved in these islands, it's a very, very different holiday from visiting the Azores or the Canaries. Azores and Canary is very much a feeling that you're in Europe, where you cross over to Cape Verde, and it's this very, very awesome feeling that you are in Africa. And that is one of the most democratic and more developed countries in Africa. And it is this wonderful mixture of art, culture, very intriguing history, mixed with quite a simple but well-lived life. They've got such good climate there to have very good sustenance, quality of life, wonderful like fruit, veg, and of course fruits of the sea. All the fish there is absolutely fantastic. So it's such an interesting place to visit. It's about 14 degrees north in the northern hemisphere, and it's not such a far hop, skip, and a jump over from the UK to get there, and it is absolutely fascinating. So here we have the Barlavento and the Sotavento Island, that's leeward and windward islands, and that's a similar theme actually when you visit a lot of these Atlantic islands. Even the Caribbean have, the side that's very wind exposed and the side that's very sheltered. But 10 main islands, of which we visit 7 on our island hopping in the Cape Verde itinerary. So we'd come straight from Dakar. It's about 600 nautical miles over from Dakar onto Cape Verde. I would say it's a wonderful crossing, except it actually mostly happens at night in the dark. So you leave Dakar in the evening, and the next morning you wake up and you're already in the island of Santiago. And that is our first stop. So on the bottom there is our first stop, Santiago. And then it's a very quick, easy sail overnight over to the Fogo Bravo group, which we do both in one day. They're very close by. I'm going to go through some pictures in a minute. And then we whiz up to Sol, and then westwards to São Nicolau, São Vicente, and São Antão. So you really get the most fantastic flavor of all of the islands. It's so easy for us doing it by ship. A lot of the time you'll meet local guides or local people that have lived there their whole lives, and they haven't been to most of the islands. They've been to, there's a ferry between São Antão and São Vicente, and there's an airport, so you can go from Praia across to São Vicente. But it's actually not that easy to get around from one island to another. And as you can expect, some being more high volcanic newer islands, and some being more flat islands, some being windward, some being leeward, they're very different one from another. And then because of this cultural isolation, in a sense, they all offer really quite a different and unique slight twist to the culture, the art, the feeling of being in that place. So really, really is a fascinating place. I think you just sit there taking it all in. It's really, really different to Africa, and it's definitely different to the other Atlantic islands in a way that you'll have to go and see for yourself. So it's on the lovely Hebridean sky. That is the sister ship to this island, this one, Island Sky. They're more or less identical, and here is Island Sky in Bravo. And the mixture of Cape Verde, what really sort of jumps out for me is the wonderful vibrant art and crafts. So the dancing on each island, they've got fascinating and really steeped in long history types of dances and, you know, capoeira and sorts of things that have sort of evolved over influence from so many cultures. The Portuguese were there since the 15th century, and also it was a Portuguese overseas territory until 1975. So that's one of the dominating influences, as well as the African slave trade, which was perfectly positioned for that industry at the time. And after the slave trade declined, so the islands also took a bit of a economic slump, shall I say, and has been picked up in the last decades with more service-related functions, and that includes tourism. But just a lovely, sleepy, simple way of life here on Cabo Verde, and you definitely just feel just taken in and enamored by all of it when you're there. So let's go through some of the scenery. You can see that wonderful Portuguese influence. You could be quite as easily in Mozambique when you see some of this old infrastructure established by the Portuguese. And this is in Praia Santiago, which is our first stop of the day. It's really hot in Cape Verde. So, and at the time of year we go as well. So, and you can see some of these islands, not too much shade, many of them. And so you'll want to wear nice wide brim hats, good walking shoes for sort of longish walking tours through towns and stuff like that. And something that will stand out for you, maybe, you know, in a way that you won't expect before you go there, is every day these incredible drives, incredible viewpoints, amazing mountain ranges. This is on the first day on the island of Santiago. This absolutely incredible Serra Malagueta mountain range. And we're always driving up into these mountains on several of the islands. You have these fantastic drives to viewpoints. And it's strange to go from such a hot and dusty town center up into the mountains. And within, you know, 2 hours, it's quite chilly up there sometimes. So wonderful viewpoints all the time. Cidade Velha on Santiago was the old capital, and it's just this very picturesque and photogenic city now. There's a fortifications up on the hill, and then this sort of relaxed, sleepy kind of town right by the coast, fishing town underneath that. So really, really great place. There we go. So the next day we pop over to Fogo Bravo, and we do them both in one day, because what we can actually do, although ports are being built at a rapid pace there, so we have in the past used zodiacs in those places, but I think that will no longer apply. I think it'll be alongside by the time we go in 2022. And they're so close we can literally travel from one to the other over lunch. And Fogo is literally just one big volcano. And when you're at the bottom, the scale is hard to comprehend. I mean, on this picture, because it's a newish volcano, so there's no trees and buildings, so you can't really see if that's just a little sandcastle someone built in the background, or it's an absolutely massive peak. And it is an absolutely massive peak. So you drive and drive and drive and drive and drive on this black sand up and up and up and up and up this hill. And there's this incredible community of people that live right on the top, inside the sort of tip of the volcano, in the crater at the top. And it is absolutely intriguing. You can buy little handicrafts from them. They make it out of the volcanic stone. They grow wine up there. It actually just turned out to be a great soil quality and an area for wine growing. So super interesting. And we go and have lunch up there as well. This is down in the town, São Felipe, in Fogo. And again, you just see that real Portuguese influence into the architecture. Fogo still. And many of the days we are in these little minibuses or minivans, and a lot of the roads and a lot of the islands are cobbled. So a lot of these long drives, a lot of full day tours, and even the half day tours are on these cobbled roads. And so there's that vibration. This goes on for, you know, an hour. Then the minute you cross over to a tar road, it suddenly seems relatively silent. So certainly the little vibration is part of the journey, and these cars are a great way to get around on these tight little winding mountain roads all over the show. Bravo again, and something else that got left behind by the Portuguese in terms of infrastructure were these incredible mountain roads and passes. And this is actually a cobbled road there. To think of the years in which these were actually built, the manpower needed to build it, the cobbled roads and the carving out through these mountains to make these roads. It really is an impressive to see that now, and it's still serving the islands today. Now hopping over to Seoul. Seoul was once a major stopover for flights from South Africa over to America that would refuel. So it was quite a hub at that time. And nowadays it's mostly salt pans, and the industry there is salt. But another thing we try and catch at Seoul, and it sort of depends on the season, is the turtle hatching, the loggerhead turtles there. We often go and visit their hatchery program, where they go and collect eggs that have been laid that are potentially in vulnerable areas and bring them over to let them hatch in a much safer area for the turtles. And then we sometimes get to see the little turtles hatching, and we always get involved in sponsoring some. So that's kind of cool at Seoul. And then moving over to São Nicolau, we do another wonderful mountain scenic drive over the Fogo Bravo. And I just put this picture of some artwork that we found whilst we were there, just to really enforce this wonderful quality of life that you see there. It's very much a sort of sustenance, harvest, sleepy kind of life, very vibrant in music, in art. There's a little shop there that they hand make these fantastic guitars, and fishing community, all sort of living off the sea and living off the land. And you've got some of these farms there that are just doing things in some of the most ancient traditional ways, not using modern electronic equipment and machinery, but it's all working so beautiful with oxen like spinning around the mill, and just really, really cool to see the way of life that they have there, and a really good quality of life, as well as being simple. Here's a little guitar shop there. And then up in the mountains, the Queimadas, we have all these dances. A lot of the islands, you have different dances that are performed for us, which is so lovely. And this one is up on this cold, chilly mountain up the hill, and they're just wearing the black and white, and they're wearing these beautiful, beautiful, simple outfits, and doing this lovely, simple dance. The music, it's so enchanting. Really, really is a special place. This is one of the drives that we actually do. Can you see the zigzag, 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 weaving all the way up the hill? The road itself is quite impressive. And then moving over to Mindelo in São Vicente, you can see it's one of the other major capitals, a lot more hustle and bustle than some of the sleepier areas of the island, a lot more commerce going over here in Mindelo. And this remnants of the Portuguese architecture still seen in some of the tiles and the art. You can see the stuff, a lot of the cityscapes in the harbour, and the markets just showcasing some of the wonderful food that they have. It's always, I think, a highlight to visit the local markets and speak to some of the vendors and buy a few little, knickknacks that you can take home. Obviously, always the hot sauce and whatever else you can get your hands on. São Antão with the Cova crater, and not always the views. The clouds often just seep in there and just fill this bowl like a bathtub, but all the cultivation you can see going on there in this crater valley right up on the hill in São Antão. And then this is one of the highlights, and oftentimes it makes the cover of the guidebooks of Cape Verde, is Fontaine House. And you do this long drive around the coast, and eventually you take this precarious, narrow hillside road, and you land up at this town that is just perched on sort of two cliffs on either side, this little town perched in this valley that's just so picturesque, so intriguing. And then it's very entertaining watching all the minivans that we bought trying to all turn around and go back on the single track road again. But yeah, it's one of those impressions, I think, of all the places I've been all over the world that you always think back to in Cape Verde, is some of these drives and this particular town, Fontaine House. There it is again. Just some simple pics that I took on my phone from the trip when I was there. So really great wildlife, scenery, fauna and flora is great. The fish life in the ocean is very impressive, but we mostly see that translated into the marketplaces, where you see what the local people are able to catch and what they're eating. And all in all, just I think a lot of surprises, a lot of intrigue, and it's a place that I would highly, highly recommend. Is the full island hop in Cape Verde. Otherwise, a wonderful idea also to combine it with the Canary Islands, and then you really get to see that contrast, visiting a few of the Cape Verde Islands and then popping over to Canary, and you see that lovely contrast. So hope that was helpful, a little taster of what's out there in the Cape Verdes, and I hope you enjoyed.